How often in your home do you and your kids get into power struggles? A real battle of wills where they're coming at you and they're being defiant or saying, I don't want to do that. And then we tend to then react to that by kind of matching that intensity with our intensity. Well, I know that can happen to me a lot, especially when my kids were little and I was still trying to kind of change the way I was parenting to where I didn't want to raise kids who were just really good at fighting me or even losing to me. Either way, that's why we wanted to bring on Vivek Patel. Now, Vivek is a man who is a martial arts expert. He's also a dancer. He's also a parent coach. And Vivek has so many cool thoughts wrapped around ideas like respect, controlling our kids, and also about strength. What does it look like to really be strong as a dad or a mom in our culture today? And so I wanted to talk to Vivek about helping us kind of reshape that. And so throughout this interview, you're going to hear him start kind of giving you a new way of thinking about these subjects. Especially, I love his thoughts about respect and strength and control. These three in particular really stood out to me. And so I know you're going to walk away with a whole new epiphany about how to take these moments that seem to be moments of power and control with your kids, and you're going to start seeing them in a different way. So take a moment to sit back. If you haven't already, to take, pause, definitely rate, review the podcast, share it, because this is going to be so helpful to so many of your friends that have kids and are raising kids or in the midst of these kind of power struggles. But we really appreciate you taking a moment to do that, and then sit back and enjoy this interview with Vivek Patel.
Welcome to the Art of Raising Humans.
The Art of Raising Humans is a podcast designed to support, equip, and encourage parents on how to create long-lasting, deeply connected relationships with their kids that's free from fear and shame. Come join us on the journey. Okay, welcome to The Art of Raising Humans. I'm Kyle.
Hi there, I'm Sarah.
And Sarah, a lot of questions we get from parents when we're coaching them is, what do you do when your kid just isn't doing what you ask?
Yeah.
You ask them to do something.
You feel like
simple.
you're doing everything, and then there's still that.
Yeah, it seems like everything becomes a battle with the kid, right? So we thought we should bring on somebody who's like an expert in martial arts, right? On how to figure out how to use martial arts to get your kid to do what you want, right?
Yeah, no.
Is that the goal?
No.
Okay, so today we want to welcome our audience to Vivek Patel. And Vivek is going to share with us some unique ways to turn these moments of resistance, these moments that seem to be battles, into something different. So welcome to the podcast, Vivek.
Thank you so much, my friends. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for the invite. And I want to start off by saying that I was reading some of the articles on your blog, and I was really moved by how alike we think.
Oh, good.
Because I was expecting a bunch of, only because it's so common, it's a bunch of authoritative, hierarchical stuff.
Yep.
And I didn't find that. I found collaboration, and I found listening, and I found connection, and I found human relationship. And I was like, wow, these are my people. I was telling my wife, they're not going to find me very radical, which is a pleasure. I'm so used to being thought of as radical. So it was a pleasure to read through your content.
Well, good. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you, we were talking before we jumped on there to record, how does martial arts, how has it taught you to kind of be this kind of parent, this kind of adult, as you're helping parents move away from battles to working together? How does martial arts play a role in that?
Yeah, it's interesting. When my daughter's 28, by the way.
Okay.
Married, has a house, has a job.
Oh, great.
She's got a whole life. Yeah, it's amazing. And when she was born, I still remember the moment she was born. I was right there, thankfully. I was right there. And when she popped out, the doctors missed her, and she kind of bounced on the table.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she kind of flew out, and then I shooed everybody away, and I went right to her, and I was the first person that she saw.
Wow.
And I looked right into her eyes, and for 30 seconds, I just held her and said, "I love you, I 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 love you." Because I really wanted that to be her first experience of me, literally the first. And then I heard her psychically in my head. I heard her say, "Thanks, Dad. And let me just let you know now, if you treat me like most people treat their children, I'm going to hate you when I'm a teenager."
Yes.
And I said, "Noted. Thank you very much." And in martial arts, when someone threatens you, you don't threaten them back, right? So for example, what I teach in martial arts is if somebody threatens you, start by looking at their humanity. Start by looking for the what empathy you can offer these people. Because everybody, these people want to fight, but they're fighting because they're wounded. They're fighting because they're in pain. They're fighting because they don't know what else to do. They're fighting because they feel oppressed and they feel trapped. Like I have intervened because of my martial arts skill. Whenever I see some kind of danger happening out in the wild, I intervene. I jump in because I don't want people to get hurt. And 10 times out of 10, I'm able to de-escalate the situation. And part of the reason I can do that is I have confidence in my skills, so I can relax in front of a dangerous person, right? And so I think with parenting, it's very similar. Like I know that because I focus on things that create a really deep relationship with my kid.
Yeah.
I focus on being able to communicate well. I focus on being able to connect really well. I focus on being able to empathize and listen deeply. And and be able to share my heart openly and vulnerably, because I do all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing the more aggressive punching kind of martial arts, like punching the people in when they threaten me, which would be limits and boundaries and consequences and rules and punishments and all that stuff. So because I take the more flowing method, I'm able to work with my kid and flow with them. Not just my kid, but like I've worked with hundreds of children throughout the years. Yeah. Volunteering in schools, teaching dance, teaching martial arts, volunteering at youth conferences with hundreds and hundreds of kids, you know. And I put these more human, more connected, less violent principles into action with so many kids. And every single time their heart opens, their desire to collaborate and cooperate opens. It's fine. I find it amazing, you know. I find it absolutely an amazing thing to witness, because like there was this one time when I was at a youth conference. Yeah. And and my daughter would volunteer with me every year as well. So the two of us were always there. And I used to teach anti-bullying workshops or leadership through movement workshops, because I'm also a dancer as well as a martial artist. So I would combine dance and martial art games. Yeah. I would combine martial arts and dance games together, and we would have so much fun. And one time my daughter came in just before, she's 28 now, she must have been 16 or something at the time. She came running in, she said, "Dad, there's this one kid that's disrupting all of the other classes. He's getting in their way, he's speaking up, he's being rude, he's shoving the other kids, he's making life difficult for everybody, and everybody keeps sending him out of the room." And then she said, "Dad, I came to warn you." And she said, "Dad, he needs your empathy." So I was like, this kid knows what's up, right? She didn't say, "Watch out, he's a troublemaker." She didn't say that. Yeah. And so I said, "Point him out to me when he comes in." So she hung back and she pointed him out, but I actually didn't need her to point him out, because it's a movement workshop. So I had the whole center of the room clear, right? So he brought 3 chairs right into the center of the room and lay down across all 3 chairs.
Oh my God.
Right now, this kid is maybe 12. Yeah. Right. This is a youth conference, a younger people's conference. But you can see he was used to being the bad kid. He was used to being the troublemaker.
Yeah, that's the story.
His identity, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And how he gets his needs met, how he gets his connection and energy needs met. So I went over to him and I said, "Hey, I'm so glad you're in this class with me. And I wanted to tell you that I love the fact that you pulled those 3 chairs out and you're laying down in the middle of the room. I love that." And he looked at me and goes, "Really? Why?" I said, "Because it shows me that you're taking care of yourself. You're tired. Yeah. You don't want to be participating, and you're honoring that. Most people would push themselves to do it even though they don't want to do it. I love your courage. I love your self-awareness, and I hope you will do." I said, "I hope even if you lay down in the middle of the floor while everybody's working, if that's what was really right for you, I hope you'll do it, because I'm really glad you're here." This is what I said to the man, right? Yes. Now, I kind of set a little bit of a boundary in the middle of that. Yeah. Even though most people would say, "Oh, he's permissive," but I let him know what the things were that were most obstructive. Yes. And I said, "And if that's really your truth, I support you in doing it." Yeah. Yeah. So the kid kind of grunted at me, and I left him. But I knew it was going to play on his mind, right? And we started the games. I had to do this game where you touch fingers and one person leads and the other person leads, then neither lead, and you try and figure it out, and it's really fun. And then we discuss how it applies to relationships afterwards and leadership. Not even 3 minutes into the thing, the kid comes up to me and like tugs on my shirt and goes, "Can I be your partner, sir?" Yeah. And he was dancing with me maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes to acclimatize. And suddenly he was in there with the other kids and he was laughing like a little kid, having fun and playing, and my most supportive participant after that. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And it really hit me, like if the other adults in that, I mean, this is a youth conference, so these people were all supportive of empowering young people. Yep. But they still come at it from the authoritative hierarchical mindset. Yep. And the parenting style I teach is called non-coercive collaborative parenting.
Yeah.
Non-coercive, meaning we don't coerce our kids emotionally, relationally, mentally, or access to resources or physically in any of the ways that we have power over kids. We don't use that power to coerce and control our kids. And the second part of the name is collaborative, means we want to work with them as human beings to learn how can we live together in the most mutually satisfying way so that we're all caring for each other's needs.
Yeah.
We're all caring for each other's preferences. We're all caring for each other's sensitivities, sensory sensitivities, trauma in our nervous systems, all the different things that make us human. Yeah. How can we care for all of that for all of us and make a family community where we all feel cared for, right? And this is what I strive for in my work with my kid. Of course, even she's 28, we're still always working on that. As
of course. Yeah.
And the families that I work with, and all the kids that I interact with, And I'm very fortunate to be able to work with so many families to help them have these kind of close relationships with their kids, because we can so easily push our kids away.
Yeah.
I think what goes through my head as I'm listening and I'm thinking about what I've heard other parents say is and you see this, I don't know if pendulum is the right word, but it's like, okay, I've been in charge and trying to control and manage and do all that. And then they swing over here, and you were talking about this mutual everyone's needs, because then they swing over here and they're trying to be so gentle. I know, but gentle parenting is getting this, everyone's down on gentle parenting, but where then it's, oh, what do you need? And how do you feel? And everyone gets worried then that they lose all their boundaries and the child is running the show.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would like you to speak to that and what you were kind of going there with some things, and I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, sure. It's a really good it's a really good thing to think about, because when we're transitioning from being more coercive to being less coercive, or being less collaborative to being more collaborative, when we're making that transition, of course, the transition time is going to be chaotic. It's not a light switch that suddenly turns on, oh, now the kids are just going to be, because you've just spent however many months or years controlling them against their will.
Yeah.
And even telling a kid you can't have a cookie before breakfast is technically controlling them against their will.
Sure.
Because, and there's no, and I always tell people that's actually a violent act. And they say, how can it be violent? It's just a cookie. I'm like, okay, but what if your kid says to you, thanks for the suggestion, but I'm going to have a cookie anyways. And they walk towards a thing, they put how are you going to stop them?
Yeah.
There's only one way you have to use your power. It's the only way.
Yeah.
Right. Now, maybe you use relational power. You say, you like turn, or you turn away. You say, okay, fine. You're going to take a cookie. That means you don't care about me. So that's relational power, right? You could use emotional power and scare them.
Yeah.
And say, hey, I said. That's that's relational power. And you can use, of course, access to resources. I'm not buying you any more cookies, because they can't just jump in the car and buy a cookie for themselves. There's so many different kinds of power we have on top of the physical power. So if I have been living with someone that's been treating me that way for a few years, let's say your kid is 9 and you're deciding to change. So for 9 years, you're aware of that. That's how you've been treated. Yeah. It's going to take a little while to trust that there's a new way, that my parent says, oh, you're respecting me now? Yeah. You're not going to control me anymore? I don't understand this. So I talk about 3 phases that happens during the transition. They're called the test, treat, and tornado phase.
Okay.
First, the kid is going to test to see if your new attitude is real.
Yeah.
Are you really going to be kind? Like, I'll give you an example between adults, because adults go through this too.
Sure.
So like something like 15, 17 years ago, and I always laugh when I say this because it seems ridiculous, but it's really, the impact of it was huge. I suddenly realized that in my relationship with my wife, I wasn't always right.
Oh, I realized that too. That happened with me as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I really believed it. I really believed I was always right and she was wrong when we disagreed, and that she should listen to me. And then my job was to get her to listen to me and to agree with me, right?
I feel you.
And thank you. I really appreciate the empathy. I really do. And so, but the impact of this epiphany, it was like, wait a minute. Her perspective is just as valid as my perspective. Like, it hit me really hard. It was, I do a lot of inner work, so I'm glad that was part of the work that came. But after that, when I would go to have conversations with her, I had like in a moment, because it was an epiphany. Like, there's 2 kinds of learning that we do. We learn gradually as we put in work, evolve. But we also have epiphanies where we level up, right? Yeah. And you can't really choose an epiphany. You can choose the other kind of learning. But the epiphanies happen when we open ourselves to it, when we lay the foundation, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I had a real level up, and I was not interested in convincing her anymore. So then when she would make a point, I would say, oh, I understand that more. Tell me more about that. Now, why do you feel that way? Oh, I see. And what effect do you think that's going to have? And it wouldn't even bring up my argument until I really understood. Now, it took her, I would say, 5 years before she started to really trust that I meant it.
Yeah.
You know, it was evolving, but before I could really feel like where she just relaxed into me and relaxed into my safety, I really think it took about 5 years.
Yeah.
And I had to be very perseverant for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I had spent probably 15 years at that point doing the other. So 5 years is grace. Thank you for only taking 5 years to forgive me. Right. So with parents and kids, it's the same thing. Yeah. Part of the reason we don't think about this is because most people would say, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Your wife would take time to trust you. Yeah. But we don't think about that with kids because this is one of the essences of childism. We don't see them as full human beings.
Yes. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
And childism is like racism. Childism is like ableism. It's all those kind of things. Yeah. And so when we do see children as whole human beings, then we're like, okay, it makes sense that I've been treating them this way, and it's going to take them some time.
Yeah.
So the first thing they do is they want to test it, right? So they're gonna find all sorts of ways to what we used to call push boundaries. Now I say assert their autonomy, assert their personhood.
That's what we say too. Yeah. Yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to figure that out, to figure who you are out. Yeah. The second is it's test, treat, and tornado. So the treat is where suddenly they don't have a bigger, stronger person with all the power telling them they can't have a cookie. So they're going to have 5 cookies before dinner for sure. And maybe every day for a week, and maybe ice cream for breakfast, right? Because we're not forcing them anymore. And then the last one is, and I'll tell you, I did workshops in prisons for a decade every week with my mom, actually, who passed away about 4 months ago now.
Wow.
And the two of us were partners in, well, I was going to say partners in crime. Maybe that's not a good saying for that particular environment. Right. But kind of, right. And but people who get out of prison often have a similar thing where they want to revel in the treat of their freedom. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, and often those people, because they haven't learned the skills of self-regulation and emotional regulation and all that kind of stuff, they do go to an extreme, and it can cause an issue, right? And so it's the same with kids. We haven't been if we've been treating them authoritatively, we haven't been helping them learn those skills because we're making the decision for them rather than help them learn the skills to make the decision. So that's why the treat can be very disconcerting for parents. Yeah. And they want to go back to control but instead of going back to control, what we do is we start to work on the skills and the attitudes and the knowledge and the support and the environment.
It really sparks a lot of fear in them when they go that direction. They get really scared. Right. Like, no, this isn't working. I got to go control them here. Yeah.
Right. And it's a reasonable fear because all of society is built on coercion. We don't have a lot of examples of real human-based collaboration that are successful. And if we are, like, the media doesn't jump up and down about it, right? Yeah. So, and then the last one is tornado. Tornado is when all of those feelings that have been repressed because they haven't had a free space to come out. Yeah. Because I just read a post on Facebook today, actually, that said something like, when I spoke back to my parents, I got a smack in the mouth, and now I'm respectful.
You've seen that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm like, no, my friend, you are not respectful. The only thing you learned was fear, you know. Yeah. And respect is something that is largely misunderstood. Yeah. And so that's the test, treat, and tornado. So the tornado, all these feelings come out. Your kids might be angry more. They might be defiant more. They might be all of these things. If you understand test, treat, and tornado, you can say, oh, thank goodness my kids are doing this.
Yeah. Well, you can see it, and now you know what to expect. And you're like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. You know, what I liked about the comment from Facebook, I always tell parents when I'm coaching them, Vivek, how there was a time where my dad, if I talked back to him, he'd slap me in the face. And then after a while, I learned if he did that, then he'd feel really bad about it and buy me something at the store. So sometimes if I wanted him to buy me something, I would push him by being very sarcastic or rude until he did slap me. And then later on, he'd say, hey, you want to go to the store with me? And I'd be like, sure. And then he'd be like, you want that toy you wanted? You want that candy bar? So I think that's interesting when we've had that happen where some of our stuff on Facebook or Instagram has blown up, and then people will make those kind of comments as if somehow that solved something, you know? And so I'd like you to talk about that, how a lot of parents who are more still using those traditional old school type methods, maybe they're moving away from spanking, maybe they're even moving away from timeouts, but they still think respect comes from demanding a kid say, yes, sir, no, sir. And
Right.
Immediate obedience.
yeah. And if you're not,
Yeah.
if you quote unquote talk back, even though that's what a conversation is, if you talk back, then they're like, that's not respectful, right?
Mhm.
So kind of,
Right.
I loved how you kind of worded it. How do you define respect, and how do we teach our kids to be respectful?
Yeah, on the back of my business card, it says, respect comes from caring about other people, not from being afraid of what will happen if you don't.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you just described,
Yeah.
right? Excuse me. Yeah, that's exactly what you just described. That what most people consider respect is actually fear. It's not a human relationship.
Yeah.
It's not based on caring about the other person. You know, like one of my sayings is, it's a slightly different, it's not respect, but one of my sayings is love is the core of chores. And when parents talk about chores, they say, I feel my kid doesn't respect the home. My kid doesn't respect me. My kid doesn't respect. And I'm like, well, then what you want to do is you want to create a relationship and a culture of respect in your home.
Yeah.
Right? Like how do you respect another human being? How do you care for them? How do you honor their humanity? How do you see the bright light that they are? You know, like in all of my close relationships, all my people know I see them as a bright light. All of them. It doesn't mean I ignore the issues that they have, because I want to also support them in that.
Sure.
But they all know I see them. Like my friend Tanya, she says, when I'm with Vivek, I know I can do no wrong. You know? And she loves that. And we also have honest conversations.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong, if one of us like says something that hurts the other, we're able to talk it through. But because we have a foundation of that deep level of trust, we can work through things.
Yeah.
It's the same with our kids, you know, like with the love is the core of chores, you could say love is the core of respect, or respect is the core of love, or something. I don't know. But like the idea behind it is it's the human relationship at the core. That's why I say my parenting mantra is relationship first.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always put relationship first in any situation before any practical concern. How am I enhancing the relationship, or how am I causing an obstruction to the relationship?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And if you put things through I call it the relationship filter. If you put things through the relationship filter, there are some things that are very hard to do. It's very hard to, if you put it through a relationship filter, it's very hard to take the phone out of your child's hands without their consent, because like just try taking the phone out of my hand without my consent. Just try, right? Well, I'm an adult.
Going back to what you said about kids being, humans, and like treating them like that's the example I use a lot when I'm talking about respect. Is if I did these same things to my wife, they would not be seen as respectful. They'd be seen as disrespectful to her. But somehow, because the kid is smaller, I can do these things to the kid and call them like good for them, or say it's for their own benefit. And then I'm like, I'm modeling how to disrespect them. And then they in return are gonna feel disrespected. So it becomes this weird kind of cycle. If you just thought, I try to think, if I did this with Sarah, would this help the relationship or hurt it? And I think every time it would cause her to pull away from me.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of people say, oh, but it's brain development. Their brains aren't developed yet, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, then they deserve even more care and respect, not less.
You're even more likely to misinterpret my actions as opposed to Sarah. Sarah could be like, he's just in a bad mood. I get it. I don't want him to do that. I'll tell him later. But to the kid, they really think I must be a really horrible person for them to do that and treat me that way.
Right. And the relationship, thank you for mentioning that, because the relationship filter has 3 different relationships in it. It's their relationship with me as the parent, but it's their relationship with themselves that I'm affecting as well, right? And this is one of the primary focuses of my parenting, and hopefully the new progressive ideas of parenting are that we want to build our children's relationship with themselves up in a deeply empowered way. You know, and most traditional and even authoritative parenting approaches aren't centered around building up an empowered relationship with self for the child.
Yeah.
And I just want to mention to folks listening to this that I'm using the word authoritative instead of authoritarian on purpose.
Okay.
Because I know that people are these days saying authoritarian is the old style and authoritative is the new style. But authoritative, honestly, is one step away from authoritarian. We have many, many more steps to take. Because authoritative parenting still allows for so much hierarchy and limits and boundaries and control and all that stuff that is really, I love authoritative parenting because we're yelling at our kids less, we're punishing them less, and we're connecting more, and they feel more safe.
Yeah.
But it's still, like I said, it's still just one step. I want to take as many steps towards peace, as many steps towards respect, as many steps towards true human collaboration as possible. Because the old mindset is, I mean, you look at the world, it's falling apart. The world is in flames everywhere right now.
Yeah.
Everywhere. I live in Canada, and Canada's like one of the least in flames places, and we're still in flames. We're still having, I saw this whole news story about this whole white supremacist group forming underground in Canada and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if we can create like a truly nonviolent, non-hierarchical, peaceful culture in our homes, that we're planting the seeds that will spread out into the world and create more peace and harmony in the world.
Yeah.
Because without it, the old mindset is just going to kill us all. It's going to kill us all. And we need healing. We need deep, deep healing, not just as individuals, but also as families and also as communities and also as a species. There's a deep healing that we need. And starting with our kids, I think, is one of the best ways that we can plant the seeds of that healing, for future generations. I really believe that in my heart. And I think that redefining respect is such an important thing. A lot of redefining is necessary. I'm doing you had mentioned working with dads at some point, right, Kyle? And I've been asked, very grateful to do a series of 4 quarterly workshops next year.
Oh, great!
For a group of dads from an organization in the UK. Yeah, and I'm very excited about it. And one of the 4 workshops is called Redefining Strength.
That's good. Yeah,
because there's so many misconceptions wired into us from gender norms around what strength is and isn't. The number of times I get called a woman as an insult online. Right? And I'm just like, thank you. Oh, you just gave me a wonderful compliment. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
So when you were, because that just was bringing up, there's a couple, my mind is going with a few different questions, but so can we get a little preview since we're not going to be there?
I like it.
How are you defining strength?
Okay. Sure.
I like that, Sarah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it connects also to how people talk about we have to prepare kids for the real world, right? Yes. It's similar to that.
Okay, no, we like that too. Yes.
Yeah. Because they talk about you have to give kids consequences. Yeah. To teach them there's going to be consequences. I'm like, you're giving them consequences, but if the way you're teaching them about consequences, I'm just diverting for a sec. If the way you teach them about consequences is just by giving them consequences, you're just kind of hoping they figure out.
Yeah.
But instead, don't be the one that gives the consequences. Be the one that learns how to deal with consequences and teach those skills.
Yes.
When my kid went into kindergarten, I told her, listen, kiddo, here's the thing. You're going into a system where adults think they know better than you and they want to control you. And they have these things called rules, and they have these things called expectations, and they have these things called consequences. And they do it because they don't understand how we're supposed to treat each other. They weren't taught what we were taught. They don't understand the nature of love, and I would tell her all of this stuff. And so when she would go into that thing, she had her eyes wide open. A teacher would tell her, she's like, that doesn't touch me. I know where I know you're broken. Right? And I said, you want to pay attention to which rules make sense. Which rules don't. Which ones will help the class function, like effectively because you all want to get along. And which ones may feel unfair to you and you want to speak up about. And I will always have your back no matter what. And so this is teaching discernment, teaching skills. We would also talk about how it would feel if a teacher would yell at you. What happens in your body? What happens in your mind? And how does it feel? And what can you do about that? Right? So like these are skills. What other skills do people need? We need to learn conflict resolution. We need to learn emotional regulation. We need to learn how to communicate effectively our needs and how to listen effectively. We need to learn how to problem solve together. We need so many beautiful skills we can teach our kids. Evaluating systems. What part of the system makes sense to me? What part of the system do I want to follow? What part do I want to resist? And so this is preparing kids for the real world, right?
And just, all that we do as well. So all
That's
that
wonderful.
When our kids go, so everything we said, we're like, we've had those same conversations with our kids. And when those things happen in a classroom, it's so good to have those follow-up conversations about how they dealt with it. Did they feel like that they were able to listen to both sides and hear the point of view and all those kind of things. So it's really good.
Yeah, exactly. And we can, and this is what guiding is. Giving kids consequences isn't guiding. And so redefining strength has a similar idea to it. For example, emotional strength. We'll talk about one of the things I'm going to redefine is emotional strength. Most people think let me change that. Most men and male presenting people have been socialized to think that feeling a broad range of emotions deeply is weakness.
Yes.
Right. And emotional control means not feeling anything except maybe anger and maybe joy when your team scores.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's it, right? And you can
many men have anger and joy.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe you can smile at your kids when they're playing, and that's it, right?
Right.
But like deep tears or profound empathy or like overcome with compassion, or like all the different kinds of really soft, beautiful emotions. Like one of my sayings is I searched for my tears for years because I was blocked from all that, from my own conditioning, right?
Yeah.
But when it started to open up, I became so much more of a full human being.
Yeah.
And then my understanding of emotional control shifted too, because I was like, wait a minute, emotional control doesn't mean not feeling. It means being able to feel all the full range of my emotions without it damaging me, to come out of it stronger, and to have the capacity to understand other people's emotions and how to work with them. All of a sudden, I have all this strength. I have all this capacity. All of a sudden, you can't trigger me as easily because I have all this unconscious stuff has become conscious.
Yeah.
And I'm like online, when people do call me those kind of names, it literally just brings me joy, right? Actually, it brings me a combination of joy and sadness.
Yes.
It brings me joy because I celebrate my own evolving liberation.
Yes.
And it brings me sadness for the trap, the little trap that those people are in of, whatever that trap is, of whatever wounding they have that they're responding to. And so like I share the idea that having more knowledge and more understanding and more capacity for your emotional nature, even though we've been told this weakness, is actually a great strength. And then we model that, and we can help our kids develop that strength so that nobody can control them and they don't have to repress any part of who they are, and it doesn't make them weak. And it's just so empowering for men to hear that message, that they can feel without being weak, because all society. I remember one time when my mom and my sister both were really sick over the last few years.
Yeah.
My sister also passed away last year. It's been a hard time for our family, honestly.
Wow.
And I've spent most of my life in and out of hospitals for having so many sick family members.
Yeah.
And I remember this one time, both my mom and my sister were in the hospital at the same time. And I was bouncing back and forth between the two of them, taking care. My sister had My sister had a stroke. My mom had a heart attack. And it was like right in the middle of this whole thing. And I walked into the hospital, and all of a sudden I sat down on this bench, and I realized I hadn't let myself cry for weeks because I had been supporting everyone else,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all these tears, like the tornado, like the Testrian tornado, right? All these tears started coming out.
Yeah.
And I was laying on this bench, and I was just weeping and weeping. And people were just walking by me. I still remember that part of my brain was watching these people walk by me, kind of looking sideways. Why is this strange man crying?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, my goodness, I could not have done this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I could not have done this 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I felt this almost ecstasy in my pain of in crying, because I felt so grateful to be in touch with that level of depth inside of myself.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I talk that way, even in the prison, when I talk that way, like, these are tough guys who, like, these are people who've killed people and really hurt people and all this stuff, right? And these guys are weeping.
Yeah.
Especially my mom. My mom could touch their heartstrings and make them weep like little children.
Yeah.
And reawaken their relationship with their inner children, which was like my mom's, I really call it her. She was the star of it. I was her assistant, really. But she, her workshop was called Freedom Thinkers.
Okay.
And it was the most requested. She had a waiting list of 50 guys long. And it was the most prescribed. This little old woman, wheel her in her wheelchair, sits in the room for 2 hours a day for 6 weeks. And these men would come out completely transformed, and they couldn't talk about anything else.
Yeah.
And so the whole prison, they called her the queen of OCI. That was the name of the prison, OCI. And but the principle was the same. The principle was, you're not bad. You were wounded, and you can heal, and you can bring your true, beautiful, powerful self to the world, and bring peace to the world, and bring joy to the world, and make the world a better place. You have that power. And it was like the first time they had been told that. Yeah. Because everyone else told them they're broken and they needed to be fixed and they were a problem, right? And you better change, make better decisions. But life doesn't really work that way, right? You can't force yourself to make better decisions.
Yeah.
Especially the bad ones usually come from our dysregulation anyways, right? So then the skills we need are how to re-regulate and how to know ourselves. And self-knowledge is one of the most powerful things we can give our kids.
Yeah. Well, and all of that sounds like strength. That would take a lot of strength, a lot of courage for a prisoner to actually start trying to believe that and then do something. Yeah. And I'd love to, and just kind of like bringing this all together, I'd love to take, when you hear a guy who knows martial arts like you do, right? And I know a lot of, even when I always meet like a black belt or something, I'm like, dude, that dude's got to be strong. That dude's got like, dude, never, because like really a lot of what looks like for men in particular, when there's situations of conflict and they get really mad, I know for myself, it's because I'm scared. I'm actually scared I'm going to get the crap beat out of me. I'm actually scared.
Right,
so
right,
like,
right.
like you feel like you got to get big and loud and angry. So that person backs off and does it. Right. And so I loved how when we first started our conversation before we were recording, you were talking about how it's the same thing we're kind of modeling to our kids, that when we're coming, and if people are watching on YouTube, and if you're not, you need to go on YouTube and watch us, when the fists are coming together, right? That's an opportunity where you're saying lots of people, the fist comes at you, you meet the fist with a fist. And that's kind of what happens a lot in our parenting, authoritarian or authoritative. It can still be us coming at the kid and resisting the kid's behavior, right? And so if you could kind of share that, there was a great quote you had about a bridge, a river, that whole thing, but kind of how martial arts has taught you this idea of respect and strength and all that in these moments with these kids. And I'd love you to wrap it up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The saying is, and I have a lot of one-liners, by the way. I've written hundreds of them. I love them because it helps parents remember concepts.
Oh yeah.
And this one-liner is, guide your kids like the banks of a river guiding the flow, not like a dam stopping the flow.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
And one of the beautiful things from that is, and I see this in my kid, is our children actually crave our guidance.
Yes. Yep.
I always say, don't make learning a drag.
Yeah.
If you make learning a drag, your kids are going to find their learning elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
But if you make learning a joy, if you make learning connection, what's that? Sorry?
That's good. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to learn from you if it sucks to learn from you.
Right. Right.
Yes.
And my martial arts students, honestly, they love me. Actually, I don't teach martial arts anymore, but I taught for 20 years. I stopped because I wanted to focus on the parenting education stuff, because I was doing both for a while. But my students loved me, adored me. They would say, Vivek, all we think about is getting to the next class, you know?
Yep.
And it wasn't because the martial arts were that spectacular. I mean, I was good, but like there's lots of good martial artists out there. But it's because of who I am and how I treated them. And I remember there's this one, so martial arts. So what you did was this, right? So when one of the things that we're taught is when you have force, if you meet it with force, you're both going to get bruised. Really, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. And instead, what happens is when a force comes in, we want to guide the force.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my students would say, I fell, and I don't even know why. Right? It's like, it's an invisible thing. Yeah. And it's the same with kids. Like with kids, if we can get to, instead of trying to fight with their behavior presentation, if we can connect with them, I call it having iceberg consciousness.
Okay.
If we can go underneath the surface and find out what are the needs, what are the feelings, what's going on. Like you mentioned fear in the self-defense situation, the kids are experiencing that too. Their nervous systems are dysregulated. Sure. They have some kind of fear response, or a catastrophization response, and it's often built on real experiences because they do know they're going to get in trouble or something like that, right? So instead, what we do is so first we take a moment and we regulate ourselves. Yeah. Always, always, always start from the center outwards, right? Even if it's, one of the things I do is I teach a micro meditation, which is a one breath meditation. Yeah. And it's just, you just go, and then you go on about your day. It literally just happens from one breath. But you practice it a number of times, so your body gets used to that feeling. Yeah. And then what happens is, after we build up layers of skill doing that, then when you come to a tense situation, you'll be able to take that breath and regulate your nervous system because you've been practicing it. But anyway, you need to do it, whether it's tapping or whether it's dancing or this is where pattern interruption comes in, because you would ask me about pattern interruption. So when my nervous system is on fire, I'm going to find some way to interrupt that pattern, because if I just follow the pattern of the dysregulation, we're going to fight. Right? And there's going to be a power struggle. So I interrupt that pattern. And pattern interruption is so good with an on fire nervous system. And I'll do different things. First of all, I will change my voice. I will either get humorously loud. I don't mean scary loud, but humorously loud. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm on a mountain and I have to yell really loud for the people on the other mountain to hear me. My whole nervous system is like being activated, right? Sometimes I'll get up and do a wild dance, and sometimes I will get really still all of a sudden and fall to the floor. Sometimes I'll go out, like pattern interruption is about shifting things, right? So I'll change the speed, I'll change the location, I'll change the volume, I'll use props, I'll use furniture, I'll do anything I can to shake out of the moment. Because again, I don't want to follow my standard pattern. I want to follow my chosen pattern. I call it moving from imposed to chose.
Yep.
And because we have so much of us is imposed. I've been doing this work of dismantling my programming for 30 years, and I still know most of my mind is imposed and most of my thoughts are imposed, right? I'm always working towards chose.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of being a conscious person, is moving from imposed to chose. So many people just accept they're imposed as their identity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank goodness I didn't end up like that.
I know. Yeah.
I don't want to be stuck like that.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell a story. So I mentioned I'm also a dancer. I was at a dance retreat, and there was one teacher that was teaching this dance thing where we all, those decks of cards where they have different things, and you have a book and it explains each card. So this was goddesses. They had all different goddesses.
Okay.
And you pick the goddess out of the card randomly, out of the deck randomly, and then you read your little description in the book. And so I picked Diana, the goddess Diana, who's Wonder Woman. And my daughter loved Wonder Woman, so I was very excited to get that card. And so we did a whole dance, and then at the end of the session, there was about 10 of us left over, and we were reading from the book. And all of a sudden, this 4-year-old was sitting on their mom's lap, went and grabbed the book from one of them, and held it like this, and wouldn't give the book up.
Yeah.
And there was still like 8 of us that wanted to read the book after the dancing was over. And so the parents, first of all, tried to take the book from the kid, wouldn't do it, grabbed on like lives for dear life. And then other family friends came, and then other parents came. This kid would not give up the book. Now, everybody there knows what I do. I was there for dancing, but they all know I do parent stuff and work with kids. So they all were like, why is Vivek is just standing back there? Okay, Vivek, none of us had success. You try.
Right. Show us what to do here.
Right. And they all don't like what I teach also, because it's too much pressure, right? But still. Yeah. So then I went over to the kid and I said, hey, listen, kiddo, all these people are trying to get this book away from you. I'm not going to try and get the book away from you.
Yeah.
Because you want the book. I want you to have it.
Yeah.
I want you to have it as long as you want it. As long as it's really right for you to have that book, even if it means till tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you keep it, because nobody should take something out of your hands like that. No, you deserve respect. I said, and also, I'm so excited to read this book because I got Princess Diana and my daughter loves Wonder Woman, and I want to read it so I can share it with her. And I'm so excited about that. Right. Yeah. And the kid just handed me the book just like that in that instant.
Yes. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I have hundreds and hundreds of stories like that.
Yes.
Hundreds over the years.
Yeah.
That when we first of all, when we support kids' autonomy, and we share our need. I shared my need vulnerably with this kid, right?
Yeah.
He was so happy to collaborate with me.
Yes.
A friend of mine afterwards was walking with me and said, Vivek, I still don't agree with your stuff. I said, okay, maybe. But look who practically in the real world got the job done. Right?
That's so good. That's so good. And I love that. What I love about that story too is it's just an example of even a 4-year-old, how we want to make it all about power and control. But then this 4-year-old is seemingly like usurping everybody's will in that moment. And like,
running the show.
And like, it's not about saying, no, my will overwhelm yours. Instead, it was what you did there was you turned chaos into connection, and then the connection led to cooperation. And that's all the kid wanted the whole time. The kid was just saying, like, I don't think any of you will understand how bad I want this, so I have to fight for it. And you're like, no, I want it too, but I'm not going to fight for it. And then the kid's like, wow, and you still think you're going to get it? That's awesome. Like that's all the kid wanted was a different path than having to demand her own way or his own way. Right. So Vivek, what I'm coming away with this is basically 3 points. Is one, you're very passionate. And I love your passion about guidance instead of control. And the quote you did about the river, I hope every listener got that, heard that. That's such a great reminder. Anytime that they seem like their kid's against them and this is a moment to do something to them or even for them, we want to do it with them, which is fantastic. I loved how you talked about respect in a different way. It kind of gave us a way to redefine respect. It really starts with me first. And share that quote again about respect. What's the quote you had?
Yeah, it says respect comes from caring about other people.
Yes.
Not from being afraid of what will happen if you don't.
No, and that's so key to everything we try to do with our kids too. And then the third one was that I really think is just so cool to have a guy on talking to our listeners, a guy who knows martial arts, who to a lot of guys would be like, yeah, if I could learn that, if I could be a black belt, I would be strong. But instead, you're saying strength comes from this ability to actually be vulnerable and this willingness to actually face the hurt that you've been through, the fear that you have. And really that's what we want to raise our kids, both boys and girls, to grow up to be, is to be strong people who aren't afraid of knowing themselves and being able to show up in this world, right? And to fully be human. So I just thought that was all so beautiful. And I hope our listeners were able to get all of that. But real quick, how could they find out more about you? If they were more interested about your work or even these workshops you're doing, how would they find that information?
Yeah, thanks. So my social media is called Meaningful Ideas everywhere. I'm Meaningful Ideas, and I have over 200 videos on my YouTube channel. It's one of my favorite things. Some of them are just 2 or 3 minute long, but some of them are full 2-hour workshops. It's really really great, and that's Meaningful Ideas. And most of my articles are on Facebook at Meaningful Ideas. I've written about 500 articles, and I have all that on Facebook. And my website is meaningfulideas.com, where I have my free course, which is called Guiding Without Controlling. And it's a 40-minute video chock full of really helpful information on how you can actually bring that alive in your family, the idea of guiding without controlling, where your kids not only trust your guidance, but crave your guidance. And it's a beautiful thing. My kid's 28 and still craves her parents' guidance.
I know. And isn't that the dream, that we want the kids to always be able to come to us and not be forced to listen to us, but actually want to listen.
100%.
Yes.
I mean, at 28, like I said, she's 28, married, has a job, and she's we still text every night, her parents and her. We text as a family every night. Good night.
I love that.
And also on my website, I have a parent membership group where I go live talking exactly like this for an hour every single week.
Yeah.
And all the replays are available. There's almost 50 replays now available. And we go into a depth on, like, Test, Treat, and Tornado, for example. We go into like a whole hour and a half just on Test, Treat, and Tornado. And so week after week, we're doing that. This week, we're doing creating rituals and families to create a family cultural identity.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. And so you can find that also on meaningfulideas.com.
Okay.
Great.
And we'll have all of those too
in the show notes and all that stuff. Okay.
Wonderful.
Good.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you so much for your time, Vivek.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah. And like I said before, it's really nice to meet someone who's aligned and I don't have to convince to be kind to kids.
No, you're right.
It's really a pleasure. It's really a pleasure.
I know. No, it's a joy to talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Art of Raising Humans podcast should not be considered or used as counseling, but for educational purposes only.